Hey guys, Son here. Welcome back. Got another coaching or teaching video today for Wizard101. Today it is all about shadow packs. Oh yes. With the Dartmoor update, shadow spells were changed, and oh boy, there's a lot. But we're not going over everything. What we're doing is I'm going to help you just better understand what the spell cards do, or how to read them, really. You know. Okay, so let's begin. What is the difference between the old... Okay, so obviously, what's the difference? Well, there are now specific forms and creatures for each specific school. And it also has an extra to it, all of them, called a Shadow Pact. Each specific school has their own gimmick with whatever shadow spell they're using. It's gonna be it is very complicated. I will say that, but it can be useful in certain situations. So let's just go into the basics of shadow packs, how they work. So upon casting the form, the shadow spell of your choosing, it will require 3 of a certain hanging effect on you or the opponent. It will be described on the card. So if you complete all 3 rounds of this hanging effect, you're fine. You don't need to worry about anything. But if you do not complete any part of the pact up to 3 times, if you don't have the 3 required things, each time you fail the pact on a turn, you will build up 5% backlash, maximum 15% each turn you fail. So just be wary of that, especially if you are, obviously earlier in the game. When you first learn the shadow spells and stuff, just be careful with them. Don't accidentally get yourself killed by taking 15% backlash. Anyways, so you have shadow buff spells, but you also have now normal variants of those shadow spells, which is, so it will do less damage than its shadow variant based on your school's damage per pip ratio. I'm not versed in the numbers, so, as you can see, Def's Call of Cthulhu, it did 675 as its original shadow variant, but now it does 315 as its normal non-shadow. Their Shadow Enhanced version deals more damage, with the effect of needing to fulfill the Shadow Pact, of course. But along with the Shadow Pact, you also need the shadow creature of your specific school, Def's being the Dark Shepherd. So, and then you fuse the normal card with the shadow creature, and then you get your shadow spell. So, as you can see, I put it pretty much, here's what it is. Cthulhu plus Dark Shepherd gives you From Beyond, the Shadow Enhanced version of Call of Cthulhu. Okay, so, of course, as you saw on some of those cards, they had a lot of what is on that card, right? So, to most, obviously reading these spell cards, some of you are going to be wondering if that was just written in Greek or something, right? So, not to worry. This next slide that I have on this slideshow has all the different icons on your spells, as well as the school pips of, the different school pips that are available. So, and this will help you understand what is on your packs, what is on your forms, what's on your creatures, and on some of the other cards throughout the game as well, so you can better understand what you need for your shadow packs, or if you are working with certain cards that say clear or gambit, you can sort of have an idea of what you need for those things. And then we'll also give you a couple examples of reading the actual card in some other slides as well. So first, the card icons. As you can see, we have, of course, Positive Charm, negative charm, positive ward, trap, otherwise known as negative ward, but it's called a trap, healing over time, damage over time, enemy, the caster, which is you, the Shao Pact symbol, all enemies and all allies, and then of course the school pip chart to show you which pips look like what. Anyways, let's go ahead and read this shadow enhanced card example of Winged Sorrow. So, take a look at the card, and now we'll go and read what it says on the slide here. Sorrow Shadow will do 1075 death damage, and then it will then also cast 20% weaknesses on all enemies. To fulfill its Shadow Pact, you require 3 positive charms on the enemy for it to actually take away. So, after understanding what the symbols mean, it's very straightforward on how to read this card. Obviously, having all these little symbols is to just sort of not make it make the card look all cluttered, but I can understand why some people don't understand really how to read these cards. Anyways, we have another example coming up for the shadow form of Death, which is the Shadow Shepherd. This is the Shadow Schools. This is the shadow form that you get as a Death Wizard. Remember that all shadow forms will give you different effects and require different things to fulfill their pacts. The one guarantee is all of them will give you one specific pip of your school. So if you're Storm, using your Storm specific shadow form, you're going to get a Storm pip. So that makes sense. Anyways, let's go ahead and read this card. So this Shadow Shepherd form will give you 55% outgoing health stealing for 3 rounds. And you will also get a death pip. The Shadow Pip, or I said Shadow Pip, the Shadow Pact is fulfilled by taking a weakness off of the enemy every round for 3 rounds. The form lasts until the pact ends, and then it will wear off, and then you'll take the backlash from the amount of turns the pact wasn't fulfilled, of course. But also note that shadow forms work weirdly, as when they end, the health will not go away until visually until the next turn. So it might look like it did no backlash, but it actually... So if you didn't fulfill a turn of the pact, right, you'll have the health taken away, but it won't be visible until the next turn. Anyways, so here are the other things to know about the pact. An incomplete pact, due to the enemy dying while your pact is up, will take the remaining turns of the pact as health, since the pact was technically not completed. So just be careful of that when you're questing. If you do a battle and you wonder why you lost some health, that's probably why. You probably used a shadow pact that was not fulfilled. Now, you can quote me if this is how it's supposed to work if you know, but if you kill an enemy with a card that has been shadow enhanced, like From Beyond, it will not cast the pact, and you'll end combat as normal if you kill all the enemies. Now, I don't know if that actually is how that's supposed to work, but that's how I interpret it. And I've actually tested it a lot with it. I've used it a couple of times, and I've killed the enemies, but the health was never taken away from me. So, what I have deduced is that the Shadow Pact, if you kill all the enemies in a battle with that card, it's not going to take the health away from you because you were never going to make the pact work anyways. So it just sort of negates it. Anyways, hopefully this slide, helps. I might, if you guys want me to, if you want to come back and watch, instead of coming back to watch these videos, if you want the slides and stuff, I will probably put all of it into a giant resource folder inside of the Discord. And you can join that through my channel. But that's besides the point. Anyways, I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to keep yammering on about stuff, But I will say that, if you are having trouble with the complexity of how these work, just don't worry about it. I mean, I wouldn't worry about some of these spell cards. What I would mainly do is only use them when you know you're going to kill the enemy, right? That's how I would best advise to use these shadow pip cards, right? Specifically, your shadow hits, where you take your shadow creature and you enhance a spell with it. Only do it if you, A, know the hanging effects that you have are guaranteed to be on the enemy, or if you know that you are probably going to kill the enemy before the Pact is even able to actually do anything. That's just how I would tell you guys to use these shadow spells. But of course, if you want to use them as you are, as normal as you would any other spell, oh my goodness, just be careful with them. Just, don't take unnecessary damage from yourself. Because, obviously, with these new shadow spells comes a lot more, you need to be a lot more manageable with your health, especially if you are Storm, Fire, Myth, schools that have less health, right? So just be careful with that. So yeah, I think that's everything. I've covered everything, and I hope the icon, that icon page does help you a lot and helps you read some of the cards that you're dealing with nowadays, because I know some of these cards have a whole bunch of stuff on them that you don't know what it means. That's okay. It's always okay to ask for help, like I've said. In all of the Death Master class, I've always said it. Ask for help if you need it. Don't just, and I think I've said it multiple times in my teaching videos of the Death Master class, of course, that do not be afraid to ask for help, because there are probably a lot of people that don't understand it just like you. And that's why I made these guides, to better help everybody. So hopefully this little thing does help. And if you have any other maybe guides or stuff like this, slideshows that you want me to make for your teaching purposes, I will be glad to do that. I am working to do some other extra stuff, mainly for Wizard101, going into like reviewing the world. Dartmoor, I'm going to be doing a whole Dartmoor review, so watch out for that. I'm not going to get back into streaming just yet. I am still working out a couple of things with my computer situation. If you notice, I was trying to stream a couple times earlier in the month, and I was having just big problems with the actual stream lagging my game and such. So I'm going to probably take a little bit of time to get a new computer fixed up and ready for when I can stream again, because I don't want to just have like a laggy, grainy mess of like 144p gameplay, right? But yeah, so just watch out for the Dartmoor review. It's going to be short and sweet, because I will try to put all of my thoughts into just right as quickly as possible. And also, this was actually a fairly quick one. But like I said, if you have any questions about it, feel free to ask. Join the Discord if you haven't. Be sure to like this if you want, or subscribe. I'm not going to control you, but it does help. And hopefully at some point I can maybe be somebody for, extra credits, and hopefully I can give some more content for you guys, more educational, helpful Wizard101 content in the future. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day. I will see you guys next time.